They come in with the envelopes, they come in with the scripts. Whenever he's doing an interview, the questions and the answers have to be put into the system, and then the answers have to be deleted just so we can get the timing right. So it's sort of like going through a song and playing both parts. You know, you can't just have him answer the questions. Even though his voice, that voice, very robotic, we still want to have a sense of rhythm and get it right, because people will pick up on that. There are some people out there that very audio
visual,
very audio, not visual, just they pick up on sounds, and they see something might be wrong, and we didn't want to we don't want that to happen.
Why did you leave the organization?
Well, I just started to realize that what we were doing to a human being. You know, like this guy.
Leave the guy alone. Get him off that stuff. Let him live his life. Let him get out of that chair and walk and say what the heck he pleases. Like, this is disgusting. Like, stop with this. Stop wheeling him around and pretending that this is what he's thinking, and let the guy live his life.
You know, this guy's being shut down and tortured. He's in pain as he sits there. He's being sort of like, imagine like small doses of like high voltage going through your system.
Like, this is disgusting. Like, stop with this. Stop wheeling him around and pretending that this is what he's thinking, and let the guy live his life.
You know, like
stunning.
I started being stunned constantly, and it gives him that lively effect. But in actuality, he's going through a lot of pain as he sits there. His brain's being shut down, and yet he's trying to fight. Because I've seen it. I've seen it on the screens, how his brain energy works, and it's extraordinary. But he's trying to fight to get his thoughts out as we're suppressing him and controlling them and manipulating what he might be saying. Wow. So it's a huge battle, and I started to realize that
this is horrible.
This guy's a human being. I started to ask questions, and before I even got to a point of thinking, fuck, let this guy live.
And the government was paying for this. This is like many governments were paying for this. This is Britain, Canada, the US. We're all backing this.
Israel.
What?
Oh yeah, Israel's right in there.
Saudi Arabia as well?
Funny thing is, you know, what's going on in the world isn't really what's going on in the world.
No, they're all together.
Yeah.
Like, this particular example is proof.
Some people
they're all working to keep this guy going around, pushing the Royal Society and NASA and
Amnesty International has got like I don't know how many charges against Saudi Arabia. Yet you see every president shaking.
So you left because you just felt it was immoral, I guess. After a while,
I just thought it was.
You had a conscience.
I did, because a few times I've talked to him.
You talked to Stephen.
I talked to Stephen.
His real voice.
His real voice.
When?
2003. 2003. We were changing over the system, which has always been an issue. He seems to overcome the drugs, always.
You were talking to him once?
Yeah.
Like there was a moment of lucidity? How did that happen?
We took him off the system. He was sedated, but I went in to put him back on the system, and he was up. And
what do you mean up?
He was up and talking.
What do you mean, out of his chair?
Out of his chair.
What?
Tried to walk, but you know, give him time, and if he was off the drugs, he would have been able to.
So this whole time he's drunk, and then you caught him like without it, and he was walking. Or
amazingly, he should have still been sedated. But this guy, like I said, is very extraordinary, and the will and what we've done to him.
So you actually saw him walk?
Yeah, I seen him walk. I've heard of other stories where he even tried to run out of the room.
You not walk like just so that it's clear to the people listening to this thing. Not walk before. You saw him walk while he was paralyzed. He got up that week that he was off the system,
off the medication. But I've heard stories where it took 3 guards to hold him down. He's trying to get up. I mean, early on.
So he was strong. I mean, he still is strong, but they have him down, right?
Well, I think he's just a very smart guy in his will at times. Even now, today, to this day, with the system that we have him on.
What did he say when he was trying to get up and they tried to put him, those 3 guards were trying to put him back down before you put him back?
I think it's I want to go home. Let me go home. Let me go home.
Just let me live my life.
Yeah. It's the thought that started to make me think, what are we doing? What are we doing? You know, and then when you keep them down all the time and you just see a body there, you just sort of like forget. But then when I read the charts and I have to go back and do reports on what, you know, the system is letting out, even though there's a guy sitting there and realizes when it goes past a certain thing, you just hit a button. If it keeps going, you hit another button and everybody else will take care of it. Those same charts that I used to look on a screen and shut down with 20 other people. I started to realize this is inhumane. Why not let the guy go? Then when I started to question my superiors about it, right away, like I had to change my name. I was getting threats. I was being watched like I've never believed. And I know what security and surveillance is all about. That's what I do. I know when I'm being...
Yeah, you know when you're being watched, yeah?
Yeah. That's definitely...
So
and then in 2003, when he spoke to me, he said, why? Why are you doing this to me?
He just...
Then he said, I know why you're doing this to me. And then he said, don't play their game. You'll only be killed. And then, of course, a bunch of guards came in. I was removed from the room. Next time I saw him, he was sedated and back on the system.
Wow.
So that's something I've been living with for these years. And when I started asking questions,
what was he working on? Like, well, what was he working on?
Excuse me?
You're asking questions like, what was he working on? That was so sensitive.
Exactly. Then I started to do some research and I realized that he was finding out some real information that was more truthful than what we all know and what we're told. Then I started to realize that the only reason why he was a national or security threat or an international security threat was because of what he knew.
So they took him down.
So they took him down.
That concludes our interview entitled The Stephen Hawking Conspiracy with his keyboardist. It brings to question whether or not science, mathematics, and the view of our universe and our shape of the Earth is indeed real, and whether the governments of our world are concealing the shape of real geography. We'll leave that to you, the viewer, to decide. And that's all for this week's installment of the Bootleg Tapes titled Inside Weekly, where we dig up a rare, controversial interview you've never heard of in the annals of the CBC and BBC corporations. I'm Peter Mansbridge, and good night.